Another lazy afternoon. The clouds covered in gray. Third coffee of the day.
Alright, so it's been a while since I filmed one of these videos, and I know I said I was going to do one every month, but honestly I just have not been reading enough for that to make sense. So this video is going to be a mashup of the last 3 months of reading, and I feel like I had a very mixed few reading months. Like I had some really good books and then some kind of books. But I'm gonna start with February. In February, I definitely didn't feel like doing a reading video because I read 2 books, and they were the last 2 Harry Potter books, Half-Blood Prince and The Deathly Hallows. They were both so good. 5 stars for both of them. And I'm not gonna go into depth because I already talked about my thoughts on the first 5 books in the last book video, and I don't want to give spoilers since it's the last 2 books in a series, but I will say I felt like the thing that I was missing from the other books, where I always felt like Harry was kind of going off on his own and the world kind of relied on him solely to save them. I didn't feel that so much in the last 2 books. I felt more like it was a united front and he had support and he always felt like there were people around him, and I felt like that was a really good way to close off the series. So I'm going to say nothing else about that. Anyway, so that is it for February. Moving on to March. The first book I read in March was As Good as Dead, and to tell you I was disappointed is like such an understatement. I honestly hated this book, and I was so sad about it because I loved the first 2 books. The first 2 books in the series is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. They were young adult mystery crime novels. It all started for the main character as a school project. It was really that she wanted to get to the bottom of something that never felt right to her, and the first 2 books I felt like we really just fell in love with the characters. This isn't a spoiler because it's like from page 1, but it starts out with the main character struggling with PTSD and drug abuse and all these issues, which is totally understandable considering what happened in the first 2 books, and I think makes sense, but I think it was used almost like as an excuse for her making ridiculous decisions that I didn't feel like lined up with her character at all, and the people around her condoning those decisions, which seemed completely out of character for them as well. It was a bizarre ending to the series and a sad ending, so honestly I give this book 1 star. I don't know if that's too brutal, but I did finish the book, but I really didn't want to. The second book that I read in March was Atomic Habits, and this is the like self-development guide that everyone and their mom has read already. I listened to it as an audiobook and I did enjoy that, but for any of you who actually haven't read this book, it is basically about how habits are the building blocks of our lives and define who we are as people, because every tiny habit that you build up is a vote for who you are going to be, and it tells you how to build those habits effectively and build systems and decide who you want to be. So I thought it was overall a really good message, and something I loved about this book that I feel like you don't always get in self-helpy kind of books is that I had like these defined steps of like do 1, 2, 3 things and then you will build a habit. It wasn't just like you can do it kind of thing. So overall I give this book 4 stars. The only thing, and this is pretty much just my opinion of every self-help book out there, is that it is too long. There's too many examples and I just kind of want to get to like the meat of it. Alright, the next book is The Paris Apartment. I really enjoyed this book. It is a mystery about this girl who goes to her brother's apartment in Paris only to find that he's not there, and she kind of like goes on this hunt to find him. I thought it was good. I thought it was interesting and intriguing, and there were like twists and turns along the way. I did feel like the first like 100 pages were a little bit slow, with her just kind of like wandering around the apartment building being like, where is he? You know, we could be a little bit more proactive here. The only other thing was that I'm not going to tell you what it is because this is no spoilers, but the ending was like a little bit like, really? Like, are we sure that would happen? And so if you've read that, let me know what you think about the ending. But anyways, I gave that book 4 stars because it wasn't like the best mystery I've ever read, but it was pretty good and I enjoyed it. It was a page turner at the end. So. Okay, Malibu Rising. I loved this book. It is by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and this book has been going around like Book Talk and BookTube, along with 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and Daisy Jones and the Six, which I'm actually currently reading right now. This was the first book that I've read by her and I enjoyed it so much. She is very talented at creating like a character study, and it's not so much about the plot. I mean, it is, this book specifically is literary fiction and that is what she does really well. So it isn't plot driven. I would say it's kind of like a family drama if I had to give it like a specific identity in that way, but it also like dives into the past of these people and talks about like their childhood and brings up like their mother and their mother's mother and also the people around them. I also think that this is a good jumping off point if you want to read more literary fiction, but anyways, definitely 5 stars. All right, now we're on to April. The first book that I read, and I actually listened to the audiobook of this, was How to Win Friends and Influence People. This is like one of those classic self-help books. If you are going to read this book, please just buy the hard copy, and I don't want to say say anything negative about the person who reads this on the Audible app or whoever narrates the audiobook, but it sounded like a radio announcer from the 50s reading the back of a cereal box. And I was so bored listening to it, and even though some of the stories were like interesting, it was just the way that he read it that made me be like, I'm going to fall asleep. Anyways, I feel that I don't want to be mean about it, but like, anyways. But to get into what this book is really about, it is about making friends, and it is also about influencing people. What it is mainly about, like for 90% of the book, is getting people to do what you want in business. But it does have applicable skills that it teaches you for making friends and just like living your life. Things like remembering things about people, remembering people's names, asking people questions and making them feel important. And that is what the whole book pretty much boils down to, is you make someone feel important, you can get anything you want. And the other thing about it was there's just so many examples about men in business getting what they want by being nice to people, and I'm like, what a concept. Anyways, I gave that 3 stars. I probably would have ranked it lower, except I do feel like it influenced me in my everyday life in listening to people more, asking people more questions, and genuinely like trying to learn things about people and remember those things. Alright, and the second book that I read in April, and last book that I'm going to talk about in this book video, is Murder on the Orient Express. This has been a book that I have owned probably since I was like a freshman in high school or something. I just have this mental image of it sitting like on my little white bookcase in my bedroom at my parents' house, and just like always thinking that I was going to read it and never reading it. I could never like get myself to start it, and I think that says a lot more about my lack of focus being a high schooler and being forced to read old books all the time than it says about her writing. And for those of you who don't know, who this was written by Agatha Christie. It's one of her Poirot novels. Poirot is a French detective. I feel like he is a Sherlock Holmes type character where he notices things that you wouldn't, but I feel like there's another level in it where he is very understanding of human psychology and the purposes behind what people do, and understanding human nature, and also just a understanding of the world. Anyways, I really enjoyed this book. It was my first Agatha Christie novel. I'm already listening to 2 more on Audible right now because some of them are included like in your membership. You don't have to buy them, which is really nice, and so I am really enjoying that. I give that one 5 stars. It was a really good story. Again, lots of twists and turns. You will not guess the ending. So these past few reading months were all over the place, and this month of May I'm going to be reading a lot more books, like I said, and so hopefully there will be a May reading recap video. There will be a May reading recap video. Thank you so much for watching, and there will be another video coming before the reading recap video for May, so keep an eye out for that, and I'll see you in that one. Bye.